Well, folks, in today's video, we're going to be unboxing my latest purchase from eBay. Inside this box is a locomotive I've been looking for quite a long time now. It's Canadian Pacific SD90MAC, and as I quickly found out looking for one to add to the roster, these are really hard to find, and most of the ones that you do find are between $400 and $500. But one day, one just popped into my feed. It's a custom painted one built by Overland, and apparently it also has DCC and sound. It was also being sold for $225, which compared to a lot of the other listings made this quite a cost-effective model. Still pretty expensive, but relative to the other ones, it really didn't seem that bad. So I decided to go ahead and order it up. Now we're gonna get to find out if it's any good. And there we are. Apparently this has an OMI drive. I'm not entirely sure what that is, but it also says it has DCC and sound with lighting. Apparently somebody paid $375 for this at some point, which again, the eBay listing was $225, which I think already indicates that this is a pretty good deal. This is closer to what a lot of these things were going for in American dollars. Now, to be completely honest, I haven't worked with a crazy amount of stuff from Overland models, but the few things I have been quite good, and they seem to be pretty favored in the community, at least with a lot of the people I've talked to. I'm quite excited to see how this locomotive is going to run here. The box seems pretty nice. Looks like somebody went ahead and installed a decoder buddy. That should make replacing the decoder quite easy if I ever have to up the road. And they've even included some specific details about the model itself here, which is kind of helpful. But let's get down to what we're actually all here for. What a beauty. Just look at this thing. This is actually a lot better than I was expecting based on the pictures. This is custom paintwork right here. Just look how fine it is. Somebody definitely spent a lot of time putting this whole thing together. I just can't even imagine how many hours were spent meticulously airbrushing everything and setting up all the painter's tape. They've even gone to the trouble of painting the insides of the wheels and staining the coupler with a bit of a rust color. They've put actual chain on the handrails. That's a really nice detail that even some of the high-end manufacturers don't do. Everything detail-wise is perfect. The only thing I want to change on this model is one of the digits. I'd like to make it 9114 because that's actually the locomotive which hauled the very first Canadian Pacific holiday train in the year 1999. And from what I can tell, the first holiday train used intermodal cars. So what I was thinking is that if I could renumber this, we could actually kind of recreate the original holiday train on my layout for next Christmas. But until then, we've got a very nice new Canadian Pacific locomotive added to the roster. I really want to go test this thing out and see how it runs. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this thing is supposed to be equipped with DCC and sound, but I don't know what specific features it might have, like if it has working ditch lights or not. So I'm going to go through every setting here and just see what this thing has in terms of bells and whistles. I'm guessing that it's probably just programmed to its road number, so we'll put 9124 in here. And we have startup, that's a good sign. So we'll click 1. And that's our bell, short horn. I think number 4 might have activated the dynamic brake. 5 seems to have revved up the engine. Number 6 seems to get it to rev back down. See, 0, yeah, we got headlights, cool. All aboard for a freight train, cool. Well, there we go, got the ditch lights working, awesome, it does have them. And I think that's about it. Let's take this thing for a test ride now. Nice. So far it seems to be working just fine with my track, so I think we'll back it up into the yard here and hook it up to some cars. Got her out on the main line. Let's hit the automatic horn. I'm not entirely sure what's going on here, but on the second lap it seems to have really slugged down. I'm at wide open throttle right here, and we're maybe doing like 25% of the speed it was when it first left the yard. It's definitely running in there, and it gets a little bit of grip, but I think it must have stripped out both of its drive shaft housings or something like that. Every time I buy a locomotive off eBay that's supposed to be in working condition, something always goes wrong with it, and I'm sure opening it voids any chance of getting a refund on it, but it's never stopped me before. Okay, also noticing that we're missing a screw on the pocket up front here. Yeah, okay, there we go. So if I had to take a guess, similar to some of the Bachmans I've worked on, probably this part right here that's slipping, but let's try turning it over. Yeah, I'm gonna say that's where our problem's at. I think if I remove this screw, we can take this part out and work on it. I'm starting to think that removing this is gonna prove to be complicated, but we really just need to get this out so we can add some adhesive to solidify that. So I'm gonna opt just to dismount the motor. Ah, this unplugs. That makes life a lot easier. Don't have to fiddle with that shell and potentially break stuff off while we're working on this. So, there's been a development. Originally, I thought that this sleeve right here is probably where things are slipping, but I noticed that the ends of this are made of plastic. It's not a molded part, and so I tried turning this manually, and wouldn't you know it, these are completely loose. Even some of the best manufacturers in the world can't seem to get over using plastic parts with an interference fit around metal. It just never works well. It's kind of hard for the camera to pick up, but those little scratches will almost act as tiny splines for the plastic to grip. We'll do a little bit of filing on the plastic itself, and just a bit of adhesive around the whole thing. Once I get this locomotive running again, we've already got our driver, the jumping, biting kind. I let the adhesive cure overnight, and now this is super strong. There's absolutely no slipping going on, so I think that's going to work pretty well. I really don't know why manufacturers don't use a bit of adhesive combined with some splines, because you wouldn't have these splitting issues if it weren't for an interference fit with very thin plastic. It's an issue that's been known for many decades, but manufacturers just can't seem to help themselves in terms of putting plastic parts around metal. But either way, we'll start to put this locomotive back together, and hopefully it will run better than it ever has before. Just by turning this thing over and holding one of the wheels in place, I can start to kind of feel tension. You see how it's like springing back like that? So that means this should be good to go. Throw in the other bolt here. I think at this point we can take this locomotive back over to the track and hope that I didn't mess something else up trying to fix it. I really hope this thing starts. I'd prefer not to open it up again. Yeah. So in terms of running, it seems good, but are all the sound features and lighting things still working? Got the headlight, ditch lights are good. Unfortunately, I'm not getting any sound from it. Well. Yeah, one of the few times on the channel where I think I'll opt for a smaller soldering iron. Okay, coupler's reinstalled, drive working, sound working, 3 times the charm. I think we can have some fun running this thing around now. Well folks, that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed. I'm still very happy with the purchase of this locomotive, but I do have to admit it took quite a bit more effort to get it up and running than I was expecting. I really thought this was going to be one of the few locomotives on the channel that would just be plug and play. But then again, would it really be a realistic model of an SD90MAC without some reliability issues? I don't really know, but either way it seems to be running pretty well now, and it should be perfect to pull the holiday train later this year. Anyway, until then, I just want to thank you all so much for watching.